With the second season of OGN's Apex League starting just tomorrow, I wanted to visit some storylines that I think are very interesting and could give us some very compelling stories from this season. To start off, probably the most obvious one that's on everybody's mind is Envious going to be able to defend their title? Can they win this season again? Obviously, that seems like a very yes or no question, and it sort of is. But I think this season is going to be much more difficult for Envious than last season was. I think coming into it, many people are still very willing to call them the best team in the world, and I'd probably agree with that. They are a very good team, and most likely still the best in the world, as far as we know. But coming into this season, there's two things that are going to make it a lot more difficult for them. One, the talent pool at this season of Apex, I think, is considerably higher. Misfits is coming in with a crazy stack roster. LW Blue has a crazy roster. Lunatic High picked up Zunba and is doing some weird stuff which might not work. But Africa Reds, and there's just so many really stacked, scary rosters this time that I think Envious, and they did go through a difficult side of the bracket last season for sure, but I think they're going to have to do that again. And this time, I think the teams are even scarier than they were. And one of the big reasons I think the playoffs will be much more difficult for Envious this season compared to last was that this time the meta is going to be more figured out and people are going to be ready for the tank heavy meta. Now, last season, in case you don't remember, the PBE patch came out, I believe, was it the second to last day or was it the last day of group stages? But it came out very late in the season, and by the time playoffs came around, nobody besides Envious was still quite ready to play on this patch. And Envious took full advantage of that. They were very lucky to pick up Mickey. They were very lucky that Harry was ready to hop straight onto a full-time hit scan role. And of course, Tommy was able to play Roadhog. So a lot of factors kind of came together to give them this win. And I don't think that's going to happen again this season. It remains to be seen. There might be another crazy patch change. But this time, people are going to be ready to play the style that Envious play. They're going to be ready to play against it. People have had a couple of months to prepare for this. So I don't think it's going to be quite as easy. But like I mentioned, there might be a big patch change again. And that's going to take us into my second story that I kind of want to track, which is PBE changes and patch changes and how they affect the season this time. Right now, there are some changes on PBE that are kind of directly focused at countering the tank meta. There's the Ana nerfs, the D.Va nerfs, the Roadhog kind of hook changes, the nerfs. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects Envious, because if the tank meta goes out, and especially if we go to a projectile heavy meta, Envious might be out of luck. They don't really have a Genji player, and they've lost their Pharah player, at least that we know. Maybe Taimu can pick it up, but Taimu hasn't shown the greatest versatility, and Harry Hook has pretty much only shown hit scan, so that remains to be seen. And then there are other teams that may benefit from this, of course. We get to teams like Cloud9 with someone like Surefork who can play all sorts of crazy stuff that might really benefit from this. Or if we go to a Pharah meta, Fnatic does have Hafikool, who was pretty scary at MLG Vegas on that pick. And if we go to, a Genji meta again, then Runaway and Haksal might do crazy well again. And, Africa Blue. So there's many possibilities of what could happen depending on the outcome of these PBE changes, and that remains to be seen. So we have to see not only what the changes do to the meta, but also when they happen. If they happen so late again in this season, it might upset the playoffs again. So one of the big things that I'm really looking forward to in Season 2 is kind of the road to redemption stories. So this is I'm going to say this is like one story, but it's like several stories that could possibly happen. One is going to be Flower, formerly Nanohana. I wrote a big article on him, so I'm not going to go too into depth, but basically he's had a very up and down career, and being brought into Apex kind of by some sister team shenanigans onto LW Blue. This is his chance to really redeem himself and show up in the big league. Now, and the other kind of redemption story that I wanted to look at was how Conbox does. Now, with the loss of Zunba, who is probably their best player, it doesn't seem very likely, unfortunately. But last season, they probably deserved a playoff spot. They were definitely better than a couple of the teams who made playoffs, but they were also in a group with Lunatic High and Envious. So they were kind of screwed from the beginning. There's just really no way you get out of that group. For everybody besides those two, it really was that group of death. And I wanted to see how they do this season, but it is going to be difficult for them to kind of redeem themselves. And then the third kind of redemption story that I really want to look at was Africa Red. And it's not because Africa Red really has something to prove, but it's because so far in Korean Overwatch, the red teams haven't done so great. LW Red has obviously failed to qualify twice now for Apex, and Africa Red failed the first time. And both of these teams were incredibly hyped, and they were like almost just like expected to make it in, and neither of them did make it the first time. So now this second time around, Africa Red at least has the chance to redeem themselves, and I really do want to see how they do. Now, one of the storylines that I think even got skipped over in season 1, not many people really talked about, was North America and I have it written down in my notes, and the road to surviving themselves. So in case you guys don't remember, last season, of course, Tailspin left EnVyUs right in the middle of the season, and NRG had some roster changes right in the middle of the season. Yes, Reunited also had roster changes, but that was technically before the season started. So I want to talk about, because it's something where it's not so much just a North American thing, but it seems to be a Western thing compared to a Korean thing, where I don't want to say that players seem less dedicated, but you don't really see Korean players saying, well, I'm upset with my team, or this isn't working, in the middle of a season and dropping out, like we saw from Tailspin, or, NRG had some kind of weird stuff going on. And over the BlizzCon break, they made some roster changes. So I want to see this season, can North America keep the rosters together? Can Cloud9 and Fnatic, these two teams who, neither of them have competed. Oh, no, because Fnatic did not get to play at the MGA Arena. So I do believe that neither of them have got to compete out of North America yet, but certainly neither of them have competed in Korea yet. And they haven't lived together in Korea. They haven't been in this league format where you're playing, matches over like a consistent period of, several weeks, that like we're going to see in Apex. And if you make it into playoffs, it's even longer. So can they survive themselves? Can they continue to operate as a team? I think Cloud9, with the recent roster changes, it'll be interesting to see. Because it really is trial by fire. They're bringing in gods now. They lost Kai, who went to Envy, and like, we're gonna have to see how they do. Fnatic, at least their roster has been together for a little longer, those same 6-man. So it'll be interesting, because we might see that these North American players aren't quite ready to work in a team environment yet. Overwatch is still very young as an esport. These guys don't have a ton of experience working together in a team yet. At most it's, only a few months for some of these guys as the current rosters that they're in. So we'll have to see if they can stick together or not, tear each other apart. But the storyline that I think most people are interested in, and that I'm certainly most interested, to finish up my 5th storyline, is going to be who survives the group of death. Group B, as Thorin put it on 2 days ago, or last night's oversight, it was who at OGN hates Misfits. And Group B, in case you don't know, is LW Blue, and it is the LW Blue roster where it's the LW Blue from last season minus No Name plus Flower, which is like a really scary roster, the roster that crushed through IEM Gyeonggi. Their closest series, funnily enough, was against Misfits, and is Misfits in this one? Yes, and then it's LW Blue, Misfits, Lunatic High, and Africa Red. That's right. Right? Shoot, now I can't remember. Now I want to double check this real quick. Yeah, LW Blue, Misfits, Lunatic High, Africa Red. I don't know, I was worried. So, and this is a terrifying group, because all 4 of these teams are like playoffs contenders. And probably, I probably wouldn't say Africa Red is like a likely to make like a really deep run in the playoffs, at least not yet. But LW Blue, Misfits, and Lunatic High, I could all see making a really deep playoffs run. And depending on how Lunatic High's kind of roster shuffles go over, I could see all 3 of them, of LW Blue, Misfits, and Lunatic High, as potential finalists. Like, they're all really scary rosters. This Lunatic High roster, Lunatic High was already a very good team before, and now they've, picked up Zunba. Hopefully, for the love of God, they drop Lee Tae-jun and can, like, make their team so much better. The Misfits roster is incredibly scary. Like, you just look at the level of just pure talent that team has, and then you look at they have quite a lot of experience. Several of the guys have LAN experience. They have Reinforce and Soon, who have stage experience at OGN, who can be a big asset to their team. And then this LW Blue roster is already a championship winning team. So this group is insane, and we'll have to see what they can do. But it's even made better because three of these rosters are new, or they've brought on new players recently. So they're all going to be trying to figure stuff out as well. So in this Group B, every match is seriously going to matter. But those were the 5 storylines that I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this season. Thanks for watching.